My name is Brianna Sachs, and I cover disasters and extreme weather for the Washington Post climate team. I'm currently in my brother's office in Santa Monica, which is a city partially under evacuation warning and order right next to the Pacific Palisades.
Brianna has been reporting in Los Angeles since wildfires ripped through the county early Tuesday. The extent of the destruction is massive. Large swaths of LA are burning. Tens of thousands of people are evacuating from their homes in dense urban neighborhoods. And for Brianna, reporting on it all hits close to home.
My dad, he's 80, and he lives right where the fire roared up in the Pacific Palisades, right on Sunset. And I grew up doing this. I grew up in Malibu, which is next to the Palisades, and that town just had a fire last month, and a lot of vivid memories coming back of evacuating and, watching my childhood burn, and it's happening again.
When I connected with Brianna this morning, she told me her dad got out. Her cousins, who also live in the area, were able to leave. But for so many people, evacuating has been a singularly harrowing experience.
I was hearing online before I got there of people getting stuck in their cars and having to abandon their cars. And when I got to the scene, which was like half of a mile from where my dad lived, there were 50 cars just abandoned there and crunched, their windows smashed, doors smashed because a dozer had moved them out of the way. And police there told me that they were ordering people to abandon their vehicles because the fire was right on top of them and telling them to leave the cars and just run, which is just astounding.
From the newsroom of the Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Rachel Siegel. I'm your guest host. It's Wednesday, January 8th. Today, we bring you reporting from the devastation in California, and we talk with Brianna about how authorities are struggling to contain the flames. Brianna, tell us more about what you've been seeing as you've been reporting on the ground.
It's hard to describe. The winds here feel like hurricane winds. They're very dry and very harsh feeling on your skin and your eyes because of all the smoke. When I was driving around yesterday, I got in a bit of a hairy situation because the winds shifted and moved the fire pretty rapidly into the area where Pacific Palisades High School is. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see anything in my car. It was just like black. I hit the brakes. I'm on, one-way road. I flipped around and was just driving on the wrong side because I was trying to get out of this situation. I was having other people turn around. I was just watching people watch houses burn, which I've had to do before, and that's just always very paralyzing. People who stayed behind, scrambling to get out. It's a very surreal experience to watch fire move like that and to know that firefighters are really struggling to do anything about it.
Yeah. So we're talking to you early Wednesday morning. As of right now, how many fires are burning in Los Angeles County?
As of right now, there are 3 significant fires, I would say, burning in the LA County area. We have the Palisades fire, which is on the west side near the beach. That's at 3,000 acres now. That was the first one that started. And then 6:30 p.m. last night, so Tuesday night, the Eaton fire, that roared up in the Pasadena-Altadena area, and that's now getting dangerously close to where I live, my house, which is just I was up all night kind of just watching the evacuation orders creep closer. And then we have another fire that also sparked Tuesday evening-ish in Sylmar, which is, they have more control over that one as of now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And for people who don't know California or this county super well, can you just give us a bit of a lay of the land and describe, where this is, how far apart the fires are?
Of course. I mean, even for someone who lives in LA, it's very hard to comprehend like how much of this place is on fire right now. So the Palisades is close to Malibu. It's off Pacific Coast Highway, that famous 2-lane highway on the coast near Malibu.
There are dozens of cars. This looks like a movie set. Unfortunately, this is real.
And gosh, like an hour away to the northeast about is where the other fire, the Eaton fire, is burning.
Very busy business corridor, but there is just not much that can be done as things are just falling and crashing all around us because this fire is literally consuming everything in its sight.
And large swaths of that area are under evacuation orders, very densely populated, urban areas. I just got a text from a friend who's another reporter, and she lives nowhere close to any wildlife or brush, and she's getting evacuated. So it both sides, like ish of the county right now are on fire, and the effects of that are blanketing the whole area.
Yeah. And as of right now, at least as far as we know, how contained are these fires?
They are 0% contained. We are heading into another really horrible wind day. It's going to get worse. I'm hoping that today they'll be able to use air resources to attack the fires. They haven't been able to because the winds have been so powerful. But we have, I think there's 700 firefighters on one fire, the Eaton fire. But, listening to the fire radio like I was doing last night, like they are just completely overwhelmed. They were running out of water. They were needing resources. Firefighters were getting, injured. So it's just a really tough situation here. And, police are out there as well. In a pretty unprecedented moment, LA Fire Department called in all of their off-duty officers. An officer told me that in the 19 years she's been there, that's never happened, and it hasn't happened in recent history.
Okay. And as far as what we know now, what are the origins of these fires?
We don't know that now, and it's pretty early to speculate. They both started very quickly, and I had one police officer. He told me that there was a small fire New Year's Eve, maybe from fireworks in the Highlands area, which is like near where the Palisades fire started. So he's like, I don't know, maybe there were embers there and they reignited, but we don't know anything, and we won't know anything for a while on that front.
Okay. Is there anything that we do know now about why these fires in particular spread so quickly and why they've been able to take over so much area?
Yeah. Again, the winds, these fires would be so much more manageable if we didn't have these winds. I mean, they're clocking in at like 100 miles per hour. Like that's hurricane force. Like we're having hurricane force winds in a fire. So just imagine that's why those flames are moving like they do. And it's very dry here. It's winter in California. We're drought prone. There's a lot of brush, a lot of area that hasn't been, I don't want to say like managed, but there's always like kind of a recipe for bad fires in places where it's mountainous, it's hilly, there's a lot of brush, the winds come in, and there's homes in the wildland urban interface, as we call it. Okay. And then when the winds come, they move the embers very quickly and far ahead to homes that aren't even in the wildland urban interface, if that makes sense.
Brianna, I just want to ask, you're obviously working and you're talking about, keeping an eye on your own house, your dad's house, getting texts from friends who are being evacuated. What are the feelings that brings up? I mean, what is that like to be doing all of that at the same time?
This is going to sound weird, but I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I've been reporting on fires since 2017. I'm numb right now. I think I'm just gotten really good at compartmentalizing the trauma. It's an out-of-body experience because I'm watching and seeing videos of places that I cherish be up in flames, and like where I used to go as a kid, and iconic institutions like the Real Inn, Chilada. They're just places that like everybody knows, and they're gone. You know, it is bringing up a lot of memories for me of 2018 when I covered the Woolsey fire in Malibu, and I lost my childhood mementos, a lot of items that they were in a storage unit, and that burned down at the house I grew up in. So it feels like what didn't burn in that fire is burning now, and I will probably not process that for a few days.
After the break, we'll hear more from Brianna about what it's like trying to escape the flames, and if there's an end in sight. We'll be right back. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us about what we know about the extent of the destruction so far, both what you've seen firsthand, what you're hearing from friends and family. What is the damage so far?
Well, just from my own experience, I did see quite a few homes on fire in the Palisades area. The high school, parts of it look to be engulfed, which is a big high school there. My little cousin goes there. The Real Inn, as I mentioned earlier, Chilada, the Malibu Feed Barn, I think this iconic motel along the PCH stretch near Topanga, that's all gone. Mm-hmm. There were homes in the Altadena neighborhood, which is just so lovely, which is heartbreaking for me too, that are going. So, I mean, hundreds of homes easily right now is my guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you spoken to people who are evacuating or fleeing their homes? And if so, what has the evacuation process been like for them?
Yeah, I mean, my own dad, yeah. I was trying to get to evacuate, and he refused to go at first. And then we had a family friend who works for him who was actually on her way to his house, convinced police to let her through the barricade, and she got there and got him and the dog out to my brother's. I got messages from another resident whose 78-year-old dad also, refused to evacuate, lived way up there, had some cognitive decline, limited mobility, and he finally got him out. Police got him to a shelter at like 10 p.m. Mm-hmm. So I know people did heed the warnings and they left quickly. Wildly, one of my cousins, he lives in a canyon neighborhood kind of nearby. He evacuated with his family and he went to a hotel, and then the hotel he was at had to evacuate.
Brianna, what are the numbers for some of these evacuations, just to give us a sense?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, honestly. I mean, I know that there were 30,000 people ordered to evacuate the Palisades fire. At one point, those evacuation orders broadened after that. And then the Eaton fire, at one point, half of Altadena, which is a population of about 42,000 people, had to evacuate. And the evacuation orders for that has greatly widened into basically the entire community of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, which is tens of thousands of more people. So the scale is pretty historic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. From there, when people are evacuating, if they're getting out of their homes or getting out of their cars, where do they go from there?
There are shelters, friends, family. It's really hard. And that's why a lot of people don't want to evacuate. It's expensive, it's cumbersome, it's scary. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people stay and just think that they'll be fine and ride it out. And what's wild to me is just how much of the city is under evacuation order and warnings right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that people are going pretty far out of the city to get away, but it is not an easy thing to do. And the shelters that are opening up are really large, and there's not a lot of privacy there. So it's just a tough thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that the fires at this point are at 0% containment. What gets this to end? What, is sort of the end to this horrible tragedy?
When the winds die down, and that will enable firefighters to really start getting and building a line, and then they'll be able to have better control of the fire, and we can have more airstrikes, and they'll be able to build a line around the fires. But even as I'm talking, I just got an alert on Watch Duty, which is our fire tracking app here. It's like the Bible, that another fire called the Woodley Fire popped up this morning, and it's already at 75 acres. And it's in the Encino, Lake Balboa region near Sherman Oaks. I don't know if that means anything to anyone, but that's a very suburban, densely populated area. It looks to be in some wildlife there, but it's very close to the 405 freeway, which is just wild. I was thinking last night where we just get used to this, and we get used to this. The level of destruction, of catastrophe, of fear just keeps notching up, and that becomes our new normal. And then we have another baseline that's a new normal. And to think that this might be the new incident that we compare things to, and they'll get worse from here, like that's what I think about.
Yeah. Well, Brianna, thank you so much for talking to us about this, and I'm glad your dad is in a safe place.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm just really thinking about all the people in LA today.
Brianna Sachs reports on extreme weather and natural disasters for The Post. After we taped this conversation, Los Angeles County confirmed that 2 deaths have been reported in the Eaton fire in East Los Angeles. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna said this in a presser.
If you are in a warning area, make sure you have your essentials, your important paperwork, your medications, things that you can take, your phone charger to survive for at least a week. But if you are told to evacuate and given an order, there is nothing worth your life.
After our conversation, Brianna told us she drove by her father's home. It was on fire. According to Brianna, it looked pretty much gone. The Post is reporting on so many other stories today. So before we go, here are a couple more that I've been paying attention to. President-elect Donald Trump has asked the Supreme Court to halt his sentencing in a criminal hush money case that is scheduled for Friday morning in New York. Trump is scheduled to be sentenced on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to a hush money payment made to an adult film star during the 2016 election. Trump has repeatedly tried to postpone the sentencing. He says it will interfere with his presidential transition and inauguration, and he has challenged the validity of the verdict itself. The New York judge overseeing the case says he doesn't plan to sentence Trump to jail time or probation, but a sentencing would formally classify Trump as a felon and make him the first president or president-elect convicted of criminal wrongdoing. And many southern states are bracing for their biggest snowstorm in years. At least 10 states, from Texas to the Carolinas, could see several inches of snow on Thursday and Friday, including the possibility of more than 6 inches in some areas. Frigid temperatures are expected to continue afterwards. Places in northeastern Texas, southeastern Louisiana, and much of Arkansas could get as cold as 10 degrees by the weekend. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. If you want to show your support for the show, please subscribe to The Washington Post. Not only is it a great way to help us continue to do this work, but you can now get access to Washington Post podcasts ad-free in Apple Podcasts. Subscribe in Apple Podcasts or by following the link in our show notes. Today's show was produced by Rennie Svirnovsky with help from Ariel Plotnick and Alana Gordon. It was mixed by Sam Baer and edited by Rena Flores, with help from Monica Campbell and Lucy Perkins. Thanks to Paulina Ferozi. I'm Rachel Siegel, and it's my last day as your guest host. Thank you for having me. Elahe Izadi will be back tomorrow with more stories from the Washington Post.